Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. It is yet again my pleasure to join you this afternoon. And I'm going to be joining you kind of like a player coach, moderator, participant today in this topic of discussion. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to my Green Bay Packers. As you can see, Bow Tie Friday, wearing the Packers bow tie. And I'm sorry, Lions fans. That's just the way it is. But I am absolutely this. I tell you what, this program is going to be fantastic because I'm joined with two of my great friends in law enforcement, guys that I've known for a long, long time. Chief John Gale of Norton Shores and Sheriff Michael Poulin. Uh, these guys are top-notch law enforcement guys, and it is our pleasure to really talk about something that has come to light in the last, I'd say, 2.5 weeks. But it goes to show yet again why Muskegon County and law enforcement, why Muskegon County's law enforcement is so very special, and why again I think we're probably the best in the state. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into this bad boy. I want to start first and foremost with Chief Gale. Let's talk a little bit about, or have you talk a little bit about what I guess brought to the forefront this idea of a school safety task force and why you felt it so important to bring all law enforcement together. So that's my first question to you, my friend.
Great. Thank you, DJ. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I received a call from my agency that there were some threats to Mona Shores High School via TikTok and some other social media. I immediately reached out to our superintendent at Mona Shores and started a plan to work together between their administration and our police department to find out if it was a credible threat. From there, I started getting other information throughout the county that the same thread was used in several school districts, and many others were having the same problem. So I knew it wasn't just a Norton Shores, Mona Shores thing, it was a Muskegon County problem. And law enforcement in Muskegon County work well together. When one of us needs help, everybody jumps in. And that's what happened. I came to work Monday morning. Immediately at 7 a.m., sent out an email asking for assistance to work on this problem all together as a group. And within 3 hours, I had every leader from every law enforcement. Of course, you, Mr. Prosecutor, the most important person to have there.
No.
Um, the, the FBI, Secret Service, we had a full room because everybody dropped what they were doing on a Monday morning and responded to work together with this problem. We took it seriously. We jumped on it immediately, assigned our top detectives in Muskegon County to start working on this problem, and dedicated all our time, to make sure our schools were safe, make sure we were addressing these threats immediately so we could make sure parents felt safe to send their kids to school. And I was just proud of how law enforcement reacted and worked together so quickly.
Yeah, thank you for that, John. Thank you for that leadership, and certainly, just as an aside, before I get to our illustrious sheriff, that the formation of that task force itself garnered a lot of attention across the state. I end up answering calls about it, not only locally through media, but also across the state through media, because again, Muskegon County leading the way and being innovative in leading the way, because as far as I was told, this was the only task force of its kind across the state of Michigan. So hats off to you, Chief Gale, for your leadership. And again, I agree with you. Hats off to Muskegon County law enforcement for yet again stepping up to the plate. Sheriff, what I'd like you to at least explain to the Rotarians is, certainly we see these threats, school threats, kind of bubble up when we have an incident like we did had at Oxford, Michigan, but that it's not necessarily that they're not necessarily concentrated to those incidents. That we do see on occasion, every once in a while, these things pop up, and as a result, law enforcement has developed an investigative protocol, at least to get the ball rolling. And so, if you could, Sheriff, kind of describe for the Rotarians what happens when a threat comes in and law enforcement starts its work.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the time. I'm glad to be here. You know, uh, as a result of the task force coming together, and another important part of that task force was Central Dispatch being involved. They were at the meeting also, their director. And, as these complaints come in now, having our task force groups together, when a call comes in, we now, as law enforcement leaders, are immediately notified on our cell phones through the CAD notes through Central Dispatch. Um, and this has been a great resource because then we're able to forward that information immediately when the call comes in to members of our task force. And we can just, we can share the information, which is one of the most important things. Like Chief Gale said, we find that a lot of these incidences that were going on were being shared even in other counties, okay, the threats that were happening. And so we were able to really kind of dispel and discredit some of those threats that were going on and get officers to respond as quick as they can because it's important that everybody understands you need to call 911 still. But we get to coordinate our efforts much easier, much quicker, and share that information, especially when we're working with our federal law enforcement partners too, which played such an important role these past couple weeks.
And Sheriff, could you describe just in general terms, kind of the protocol that uh, our investigators follow? So, for example, a threat comes in, what, and let's take it to the point where we find the source of that threat. What happens next?
Well, if we find the source of that, I mean, through a lot of interviews that are happening that the investigators are going to be doing. And I think as our community's seen over the past few weeks, the response has been immediate and how that's addressed. And, obviously, that's through a lot of coordination through your office that we're making sure that people understand that, just how serious this is. Um, we've served search warrants. We will arrive to an individual's home, interviews with parents, um, and really, seizing any evidence that we can as a result of those investigations. Then, depending on the age of the individual, if we're going to end up at a district court level or, circuit court level at some point, or juvenile court, getting them in front of a magistrate is very important. But that response is immediate, very, very quick.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I mean, certainly, what law enforcement, what we're interested in, certainly as the agency that ends up making charging decisions, what we're interested in is a couple of things. Certainly we want to see how credible the threat is. What access does that young person or that person have to weapons, whether it be weapons that they might have or that their parents may have? We
Mhm.
also, as the sheriff indicated, are searching through all electronic devices. What are they searching on the internet? What are they posting and doing on social media? And more importantly, I think probably the most important step that we're using is having that individual evaluated. You know, what is their mental state of mind? Is it truly just being well, I'll say a stupid kid, or is there some mental illness that we need to be aware of from the law enforcement side of things and develop that relationship with our mental health partners? And so it really is kind of a holistic public safety slash mental health investigation to make sure that no one is in danger of being harmed, make sure our students and teachers are safe, but also making sure that we're dealing with whatever issue that young person might be dealing with at that moment in time in their life. Chief Gale, back to you. Can you describe for the Rotarians kind of the importance and how it worked with the schools in town, please?
Yes, yeah, thank you. Great question. That's really the critical part is having constant communication with our superintendents, our principals. There's many nights throughout the last 2 weekends where I had about 14 different calls to our superintendent back and forth, trying to make that critical decision. What do we do with school the next day? Pretty tough decision, and it doesn't come lightly. There's a lot of different factors that are involved, whether we really do feel it's credible or what information law enforcement has. And we have to make sure the school needs or has that information so they can make that proper decision to keep school open or closed the next day. So having that cell phone communication back and forth immediate is so important. That same day that we had the task force, we also met through Dr. Severson at the ISD set up a meeting with all our school superintendents. The sheriff, yourself, and I, of course, and several other of our law enforcement leaders met with the superintendents and had that one-on-one conversation to make sure we had open communication, that we could work on this together, and it's really critical that that happens. And once again, our relationship with the superintendents and the schools and law enforcement in Muskegon County are at the top. I mean, they brag about it, we brag about it because it's true.
Yeah, and Sheriff, can you kind of touch on how important that communication is? Certainly, obviously, school districts are school districts have the ability to have they're within cities that have police jurisdictions, but your department enforce essentially is part of a lot of the school districts in our rural areas. So how important has that communication been with your office and those school districts?
As we have this discussion and we talk about communication, the communication is so important, but that communication happens due to our relationships with the districts and with the superintendents in our community, and that's really where that's from. And much like Chief Gale had expressed, the conversations he had when these calls started coming in and these threats were happening from his superintendent at Mona Shores Public Schools, I was receiving those calls too. But they were calls from municipalities, that have their own law enforcement agency, and you know everybody's looking for help and looking for support, and the fact that you know I have superintendents that have my cell phone number, and we can communicate directly to one another, and it's really about those relationships. We made ourselves available, the last couple of weeks whenever a district needed to be in the area or in a building. I was back at Reese Puffer High School this morning, myself. One morning I went up to Holton, just to have that presence there. We want it's very important that our children are, not don't not only know that they're safe, but they feel safe. Okay, so they can get back in that educational environment from there. But as Chief Gale said, we've been working a number of years with the ISD, with the superintendents, helping them with their emergency response plans. It really is about those relationships we have here in Muskegon County, and both through the law enforcement agencies and our school districts. And that's what's really helped this, I believe, over the last few weeks on handling these situations.
Before I touch on some of the things that the prosecutor's office has done in relation to our relationships with law enforcement and with the schools, both of you have been a part of this. Is sort of a foundational groundwork type question. Both of you have been a part of a very groundbreaking, award-winning program that started in Mona Shores and has blossomed to other districts, and that's the Ride with Pride program. And certainly, the key element to that is building this idea of responsibility and accountability amongst the students in a very positive light. Can you both touch on that and how you think that may have limited, even though we've got a few that we've charged? I mean, we've got several thousand students and only a handful have resulted in some criminal charges for bad decisions. But how has that program, you think, been part of the success here in Muskegon County? Chief Gale, I'll start with you.
All right, thank you, DJ. Ride with Pride started about 9 years ago, and when we look back at why it started and when it started, we had a lot of issues in the schools with in a difficult relationship between law enforcement and students, where most of the time we were looked at as a punishment factor of the school. We were looking for reasons to ticket them or get them in trouble, and really that wasn't the case. But we had to break down that thought in our students, and it gave our school resource officers a chance to be looked at in a positive light. So Ride with Pride was created to not look at the negative side of what kids were doing, but praise that positive side. So each time you see a kid doing something right, they need to be told they're doing something right and encourage that behavior. And as that blossomed, it started at Mona Shore Schools, blossomed throughout the county. We're now in 9 school districts in Muskegon County and 1 in Oceana. I've received calls in Kent County and Ottawa County on spreading the program into those counties as well. Also some interest nationally out of New York. But the program really has done a great job. Pre-COVID, we were on a roll. We were adding new schools, 2 to 3 a year. The statistics are there. I mean, we can show that kids were doing the right things. Referrals to the front offices, laws that were broken, were just dropping. They dropped each year to historical lows. Very, very difficult to gauge that the last 2 years with COVID because a lot of online things are going on. But right now, we're back to a difficult spot. We need to get back in the schools and encourage that positive behavior again because of all that's going on in the world. We just have to learn to be nice, get along with each other, and concentrate on helping each other instead of looking at every negative aspect in life.
Sheriff, can you just kind of expand on that? I know this program has received certainly a lot of local attention, but also statewide and national attention, and what that has meant as far as what you see being a positive impact on our schools here.
Well, the thing is, just like Chief Gale had said, being able to, the districts recognizing the good things that our students are doing and an ability to reward them for it. And as a student, when they're putting their signature on a contract, right, and that they're going to follow these, guidelines and the rules set forth in the program, throughout the school year, and that they understand at the end of the year, there's going to be a reward for it. And, as we go to the assemblies and we participate in the program and we're out at the schools and we're interacting with the kids, and that's really what I find to be the most rewarding for myself. It's not even that they have an opportunity to win something really big. I mean, these are cars that are being given away, right? And so, I mean, what high school kid wouldn't want an opportunity to win a car? So, the carrot's there, but really, it's really about that positive behavior and being able to recognize that and award them for it. And I just really enjoy being out there interacting with the kids, throughout the year because it's not a one and done. This is you've signed that contract and you got to follow through the whole year, and it's just been fabulous, and I'm proud to be part of it. I'm proud of Chief Gale for having the wherewithal to bring this to Muskegon County. And as you said, it's been an award-winning program. I guess I remember when we were both young traffic officers at a traffic safety summit, and we kind of heard about a program just like this. And I remember, I don't remember if it was Sergeant Gale back then or whatever brought it, to his department to talk about it. And it was, you want to give a car away? It was really people didn't get it, but as a community, we find the cars, our community comes together, and they help support the program. It's just been fabulous. It's just been fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just goes to show the type of leadership that we have here in this county when it comes to law enforcement, and certainly having spoken a couple of times at the assemblies that happen, the energy that these kids bring to that, and really, like you said, they make this agreement at the start of the school year, and it's really all about what they have to do is just make good, positive decisions. And if they do that, they increase their opportunity for that car. And I tell you what, man, it is something spectacular. And you guys really leading the forefront of that. Kudos to you because that's something that again Muskegon County should be very very proud of, and very very proud of the leadership that you guys bring to that. From my end of things, obviously, I can't do my job without strong law enforcement partnerships and investigations. And unfortunately, we've had to charge as of today up to 24 juveniles with various offenses for making threats to schools. But as these guys know, and as our school friends know, and certainly now as students know, we have to take these things very, very seriously. And that's the message that all three stakeholders, myself, law enforcement, and schools, have been sending. This is not a joke. We are not taking it as a joke, and we will not take it as a joke. That's why these guys have devoted resources to investigation, why we are being very public with some of the charging decisions that we're making, and ultimately making sure that parents, teachers, and students understand that it is safe to walk in that school building and you can go and learn and be safe. So, on behalf of certainly the prosecutor's office, I thank you guys, Sheriff Poulin, Chief Gale, the rest of our law enforcement partners, and certainly our school friends. Uh, we can't do this without you, and I'm just so proud to be a part of something that is making a difference here in Muskegon County. With that being said, our time is done. Sheriff, thank you so much. Chief, as
Thank you.
always. Gentlemen, you guys are great. I love you. And we'll see you all soon.